Welcome to HR on the Rocks, a podcast for professionals that takes you behind the closed door.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode 4, HR on the Rocks. Shockingly enough, my two business partners have decided to let me moderate and host this one, so therefore I've got to open champagne for it, because it's going to be the first and last time this ever happens.
Probably. It was a colossal error in judgment, potentially. We'll see.
Oh, we'll see. But it's a fun episode today, because we are going to discuss why HR is fun. HR, as we know, is pretty much looked down upon in most.
Just tell folks the quote your wife just gave you. No. Yeah. Just tell them the quote your wife just gave you.
HR sucks.
And that sums it up pretty well.
It does. And, we are here this time to dispel that and sit there and go, nope, it's actually fun. And here's why. And wanted to do this for a long time because I try and keep trying to explain it to people. And everybody who's not inside of HR and outside of it, they're like, what? What are you talking about? So we're going to drink. We're going to have fun. We're going to explain why HR is also fun. So here, humor me, Melanie. Why is HR fun?
This will be a short episode. So nothing. No, but to be honest, I was kind of thinking about what is fun about it.
Melanie, that's not the point.
Mic drop.
Yeah, she gets up and leaves. It'd be brilliant.
Yeah, that would be funny.
I was initially a little stumped, but the longer I thought about it, I got into like the Justin mindset, and I put my vest on, and I realized that it was with the vest being put on. I was like, oh yeah, HR actually can be a fun field to be in.
It's my cape.
Yeah, that's the secret. You have to have a vest. Although it's kind of warm, so I need a lighter vest. But with any job,
got like a down vest on.
Yeah, she's got like a.
I'm like ready to go to Antarctica over here. But I'm in the right mindset. So, but with any job, it's not fun all the time. Not 100% of the time.
Sure.
And HR is not either. Like, maybe like 75% of the time, something, depending on where you work. But there are things that HR does. It's not fun, but there's a lot of positive things and fun things as well. Otherwise, my drink today would be a lot stronger than it is. But I would say for me, the thing that kind of that I find to be on the brighter side, the more fun side, is people and the interaction that HR has with people. And to be truthful, this can be both fun and not so fun, depending on who you're talking to. Today we'll focus on the fun part, but in this field you get to see a range of personalities, and it's that just the mix of personalities that keeps it interesting. You're not dealing with only analytical people or only really extroverted people. It's everybody. And sort of a sub aspect of that is helping people and helping employees. And I always think it's interesting to talk to other HR people and ask them why they're in HR and why they stay in HR. Because we talked about before, a lot of people don't purposely go in; it just kind of happens.
Yeah.
And so many people say that the reason they're in it, and they say, is to help people. They want to help people, myself included. And I think it's a little tragic because HR often gets this kind of bad rap for being the bad guys, because we do often find ourselves delivering the bad news, or today's your last day, or the benefits this year are not as good as they were last year, or you got to come back in the office now 8 to 5. Good luck with your commute. And what isn't seen there, at least I feel like in my case, I know with others as well, is that I do try to advocate for the employee or the employees, but ultimately, we carry out a decision that's made by someone else, that's made by those above us and the management. And I think that's often lost. Maybe it's lost on purpose, but it's lost, I think. And then, another kind of fun aspect of, I think, about HR is celebrating success. HR is a really big part of that, or at least it should be, in recognizing employee achievements and employee milestones.
With a
And
piece of paper?
with a piece of paper. Yeah, I often do get the piece of and I was actually thinking back, how have I been appreciated? And sometimes it is the piece of paper, like, congratulations, you hit your 1 year mark, and
Yeah.
I think it's better than nothing. But like for me, the paper that I want to get is a check with my name on it, showing me. That's how you show me
Like
that
the
you
big
appreciate me.
checks?
Yeah,
Like the
I'll do
huge, massive
yes.
checks?
She wants a big check. We'll have to
First
remember that,
certificate,
Justin.
yes.
Okay.
Um,
That's how you're getting paid from now on.
yeah. Awesome.
We're
Okay.
having Amazon or not Amazon, FedEx deliver a big check.
Um, but when an employee hits a milestone, whether it's you've been there 10 years or, you performed, like you had a stellar performance for the year or the quarter or whatever, HR has an opportunity to help find a way that um, ensures that the employee feels like recognized in a way, and that can vary from person to person. The way that, like, for me, it's funny. For someone else, maybe it's a pizza party. I don't know, or some kind of team building event or something. But it can either be something there's an opportunity there where it could be cheap and cheesy, or it can be meaningful and have memories attached to it. And that really is all about, I guess, how much effort goes into it, and also how well you know your employees. Maybe take a survey and see what they like.
Oh, yeah. And trust
Oh,
me, everybody loves doing the employee survey. How about you, Jake?
short one.
No,
Very
but
short.
but actually, I am going to talk on that point just a second, because one of the things that I think a lot of leaders don't do, to Melanie's point, is they don't ask their direct employees, right? So like if you have a team of 5 or 7, the leader doesn't ever bother to ask those 5 or 7 people, like, what's your favorite drink, or, like soda, right? What's your favorite place to get lunch? What's your favorite, this or that, so that if there is a reward that is to come with something, then that reward is in line with like what their desires are. Like if I drop by and give you a can of Coke on your desk and you hate Coke, like you just messed that one up, right? As opposed to asking for that information up front. That is actually, so I know my wife, she's in the school, she's a principal at a school, so the business of education, and that is one thing that they do really well, is that like they'll have the teacher fill out what they like, and they give that to both the administration to do nice things for them, and they give it to the parents, so that the parents can like drop by with their favorite Starbucks drink or whatever, right? Excuse me. So Justin, you asked a question, and I'll stick to 3 as well, but kind of in theme with Melanie, my first response, or my first thought, is variety. But there are 2
You're
kind of ways that I
copying
look
her.
at that. I mean, maybe, but the first
Okay.
one is variety. So like, as I think back to, my time physically being in the seat, I tend to think of the leadership roles, because those were the predominance of my time in recruiting and HR roles, in general. And that is the variety of like my day in and of itself. So, I think, I might start a morning by interviewing an executive, and then the next 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes after that, sit down and write a policy, or modify a policy. And then 10 minutes after that, I might, swing by and talk to my employees or my team, and kind of go through like, hey, how's your day going? What goals are you trying to get accomplished today? That sort of thing. And then 10 minutes after that, I might sit down and actually talk to a benefits broker. So it's kind of all over the place. And
Sure.
for my personal ADHD, that I think it feeds it, right? And so if you like variety, I think HR is a cool place to be. Now, that probably comes more at the leadership level, probably less so at the staff level. But I think that was a major draw for me, and something that I really did enjoy, and made it fun.
Well, even on the
But
staff
then,
level, though, depending on how big your department is, yeah, you may be assigned to do employee relations, or you may, depending on your company, payroll might be in it, but you maybe have to pivot and go this direction and help hire someone and help onboard someone, or you may have to let's take Melanie, for example. Yes, Melanie, I'm using you because you've done kind of all facets of it. And, in various stops, you've had to do projects that were assigned to everybody in an HR department that was different from your job. And then you had to take on other people's work because they didn't want to do it. And you were given Amazon gift cards and rewarded for it. Do you know anybody who might have done that?
That seems familiar.
Feels vaguely familiar, huh?
Someone that knew that I like to be rewarded with money or monetary things.
Funny how Jake was the one giving us the orders, and then I was not listening to them, and then I was rewarding Melanie for her hard work.
Oh, you mean you were giving her your work, and then
Yeah, pretty much.
that was one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite stories to think back on. But no, I mean, Melanie. I mean, to Justin's point, I guess even within HR, like Justin as a recruiter, right, where you kind of cut your teeth in corporate HR on the corporate side of it, right? So it's one of those things where like you might talk to a candidate for an engineering role and then a candidate for a sales role, and then throughout the day it just mixes up between different positions. So there's variety there. And then Melanie, I mean, tell us about maybe the variety of employee relations cases you might have. I'm curious because I know there are some that stick out.
There are some that stick out, yes. Some that stink as well. But it really but there is variation with that because it's not like every case that comes in is the same. You have some that are maybe more cut and dry. It might
bad behavior, bad performance.
Yeah, like someone's not performing, and then it turns out that no one's ever talked to them about it. They don't even know that there's an issue. And so you might have something performance related, or you might have something that's behavioral, like a certain employees needed to cheer themselves up at work in whatever way they thought best, and they weren't discreet enough about it, or shared with the wrong people, or whatever. Word gets around. So there's performance, there's behavior, and then there's just the more simpler stuff, like someone's that even not more simpler, but that's not even English major. The
more simpler.
I've spent a lot of time
and you're like an English major, aren't you? Like a master's
No,
in
not
English.
almost.
Yeah, somebody passed me. But then there's
I'll talk to those professors later, Dustin.
Yeah, you probably should.
Be more simpler if we just explain that she's from East Texas.
Bingo.
There you go.
But yeah, like someone's on a leave and it's just kind of more procedural type issues and getting them back or making sure they're out in the right way. But yeah, there's a lot of variation there. It's not the same ever. Just maybe a flavor the same, but
sure. Yeah, and along those same lines. So I talk about variety in two ways. The other piece of it, from my perspective, and Melanie, you meant this in a different way, but like variety of personal interests in HR. So like I am probably much more interested in the process side. So like if you were to profile me and say, okay, are you an introvert or an extrovert? I'm actually a pretty big introvert. And so I don't really, the people side of HR, yes, it's something we have to do. Yes,
large introvert.
It's something. Yeah, right. Large. That is Justin being facetious for sure. But at the end of the day, like I prefer the process side of HR and, helping like build policy and process and procedure. Right. So that's more appealing to me. But the other side of it is, the other reason why you would hear a lot of folks get into HR, and that is I want to help people and it's about people. Right. So I think like you can get into HR if you're an introvert or an extrovert, and it really just depends on like what your preference is there. Anyway, so I'll stop on the variety aspect of it. The next one is the service connectedness. For me, obviously, that's something that has always been important to me. Having been in the military, service to my country was something I always wanted to do. I knew that it was a way for me to get college paid for, but it was also something that just felt right for me and felt natural for me. So as much as I might be an introvert, I think it's still important for an individual to serve humanity in some way, whatever way that is, right? And so that may be working in HR, that may be volunteering at a food kitchen, or, right now is relevant, right? Volunteering for hurricane relief or whatever the case is there. So, I think making sure that, like, if you're getting into HR, there is some connectedness to service, because you're going to have to answer questions from employees and put on that hat that is the customer service side of it, right? And you're also going to have to potentially talk to, right, if you're in recruiting, Justin, put on that hat where it's customer facing and you're selling.
And that's why, you were saying the introvert thing, and I'm sitting here and I don't want to disagree with you. I understand, but being
But
in
you
HR,
will.
you can't be an introvert in HR, right? You actually have to be an extrovert, whether you're in leadership or not. You have to communicate all day, every day in some facet. There is no hiding away, in my opinion.
Yeah, no. So you're definitely right. I think it's less about hiding away and more about, like, how do you recharge your battery, right? So for
Sure.
for you,
Yeah.
I know you recharge your battery, like you get energy from being in a room full of people, right? I
That's
actually
correct.
get energy when, like, I can go around and be with people and be extroverted, but, like, for me, I get energy, I recharge by walking in the room by myself, collecting my thoughts, maybe sitting and doing something policy or procedure wise, or responding to emails, whatever it is. And that's how I recharge the battery. So, I think that's the difference. You have to be able to
No,
have
that makes
skill
sense.
set,
No,
right? To
that
be
makes sense,
extroverted.
because policy, procedure, and responding to emails makes me want to puke.
And I get it. And I
Or-
get it. And
or
it's,
drink. Yeah.
or drink. There you go. And there it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think that's service orientation. And then, lastly for me, I would say is the culture aspect of it. So being a culture keeper.
Is that like a trapper keeper?
Jeez. You dated yourself with that one? Trapper keepers. I think there's still a thing, because I believe I bought one for my kids.
Okay. Let's just check it. I mean, so no, it's not like a.
It's not
Trapper
like a trapper keeper.
Okay. right.
So one of my favorite all-time quotes, and this is, this is something that I think executives should really hear and pay attention to. Peter Drucker is one of the most successful people that has ever existed, along, from a Wall Street perspective, right? Along with, I mean, his name in my mind is up there with the Elons of the world and the people that really make a significant impact on society. And, and so, yeah, impact. Yep.
Iconic.
There it is. We're going to have to start counting, maybe every episode.
I think so.
We see
Yeah.
who can work it in,
Yeah.
and we keep a running tally. Because again, shameless plug for the business, we are Impact Consulting Partners. And so, but Peter Drucker, the quote that always comes to mind for me is, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And that quote to me is something that every leader needs to hear and understand, because if you can have the greatest strategy in the world, you can have the best plan that ever exists. But if you don't have a good culture and folks that are engaged and bought into the organization, it's going to fall on its face. I don't care what the plan is. And so I think every successful organization starts with a successful culture, or a good culture. And I mean, we worked at, I would venture to say, I know for me personally, I know I can say I've worked at companies that have an exceptional culture. And I've also worked for companies that have a really terrible culture. And, some of those companies that have the terrible culture, like, it's real easy to realize that, like, this is, until we change this, and this being the culture, it's not gonna ultimately fix anything, right? The organization is going to continue on the downward slope that they're on. And so when I say the culture keepers, like trapper keeper, what I mean is, like, it starts with HR, and HR making sure that they're pushing that message. And that's, for me, that was probably the reason, that was ultimately, like, what caused this leap into, creating impact and creating a podcast around HR, because, like, leaders really don't, they sometimes just don't get it. And it's so blatantly obvious, and it stares them right in the face that, like, if you don't have a good culture in your organization, it doesn't matter. You're
Will
going to
never
fail.
matter.
And
I've worked
that's,
at too many places.
and,
Small or
and
big,
I'm
it doesn't matter.
certain,
No.
yeah, anybody listening to this, like, I'm certain that if you really think back on the organizations that you've enjoyed and had fun, being at, they had a great culture. And it was, it may not have been perfect, but it was the best organizations that do it right, from my perspective, are at least intentional about their culture, right?
Yeah.
They have a common vocabulary around what they're doing or their values or whatever the case is. But it's not just like this random collection of people. And yeah, we've got a culture. Well, if you never define it or you're not intentional about it, guess what? Like, it's just going to be whatever the values of those people are. And you're going to have some great people, just like anywhere. You're going to have you're going to have some folks that you need to get out of the organization. And then everyone else is kind of in the middle. And so, I think that being the keeper of culture is what makes it fun for me. But it became very not fun in that last organization when it was one of those things where it's like, I've told you guys 1,000 times that this is what we need to do. You're not listening. I can't influence that decision any more than just telling you and talking about it and trying to push my initiatives. So if you don't want to do it, that's fine. But, like, I'm out. This is not good. And so I think, with Impact, we're going to have to continue to be very intentional about the culture. And, this is a part of it. Like, it's okay to sit down and have a drink and enjoy yourself. And, you don't have to be liquored up and stumble out of somewhere, but we can talk about the issues, whatever your issues are. And I think that's really important. So I'm sorry I went on a tirade there. But
No, you're fine. But the fun part is that, when we start growing our staff and really getting more and more employees, and they go back to our podcast and drinking, and when someone comes into us and they're shit-faced at 11 o'clock in the morning, they're going to, well, you did it. Yeah. See, I can already see where this HR nightmare is going, but that's okay. We'll edit out all that part and we'll be good with it.
Well, they didn't
that's
need
fun.
to know it was 11 in the morning for this podcast, Justin. This could have been an evening podcast for all they knew, but way to go.
It's a
Yeah,
winter
that's it.
podcast for me.
There it is.
Yeah, it is. Yes. The funny thing is, Melanie's actually in California, so it's 9 there, and she's been hammered all night, and she just kept going.
She just kept it right on going.
Kept it right on going.
Yep.
Yeah.
For the love
Well,
of HR.
yeah. I'll wrap
And
it
for
up
the
real
record,
quick.
none of that is true.
None of that is
Justin
true.
is just Justin is literally harassing both myself and Melanie.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because
You let me run this episode, so
noted.
So I'll keep
Go ahead.
mine really, really quick for why I like HR and why it's always fun. For me, and I will keep mine to one, because y'all kind of briefly touched on everything. And I think in the podcast before, I spoke about how, I love when people get hired and, and they have that joy. But one of the most important issues for me is in HR, you get to know where the bodies are buried, right? I get to know all of the horrible bad, because everything comes through HR. It's fun. It's really fun. That is a great aspect, and it's so overlooked. You get to, it's
That does
Sally
not
did this
surprise
and
me
Johnny did
even
this.
that much.
Why would it? No.
Justin wants to know the
There's the
tea.
social aspect. You're the extrovert, and you get that
There it
energy
is.
from knowing where all the bodies are buried.
They did what at their desk?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Johnny
they
said
did.
what?
Yeah, exactly. And they put what in a presentation to a staff full of 500 people? And those of you who have worked with me in the past know exactly what I'm talking about, and y'all can all laugh about that. So, fun, but that's it. So, that's my 2 cents. I think this was by far the greatest episode yet. Once again, I was running it. That's okay. That's
No
okay.
bias.
Might be a last
We-
time, but that's okay too.
That's fine. That's fine. But really appreciate everybody's time. Hope y'all had a really good insight into why HR is fun. And as always, Melanie, Jay, good to see you. And we will, till the next week episode.
Cheers. Yeah, go make an impact.
Did it again.
Yep.
Another point for me.